Right. Hey, hey. Welcome back, guys. All right. So we're going to jump on in. This is going to be kind of a look at love. What is the message that needs to come out from behind the mask in regards to love? First off, we have a location, which could be mountains, nature's grandeur, elevation, and perspective. Mountains can also just represent obstacles. But if we have a location, we could have somebody who's really they hike to a mountain. They think about love specifically from a mountain. I'm also hearing Mountain High, River Deep by Tina Turner. We have shopping mall, variety of stores, shopping center. Okay, so we definitely have the difference between somebody who maybe they work in a city, but then they live in an area where there's mountains, or they tend to be, in like cosmopolitan areas, but they crave the country. This could also represent two different lifestyles that characters have. And to me, this is hinting that a character might not be living the lifestyle that they actually want to. Maybe if they're, keep in mind, this is the message that's hidden in regards to love, something that maybe it would behoove a character to pay attention to. If they are living and meeting like somebody who loves the mountains, but they themselves are like, I want a more cosmopolitan life. Maybe that's something to be mindful of, to like really think about what life you want to build with a romantic partner so that you get the right one, so that everybody is on the same page, so that this is not going to become an issue. I mean, because this speaks of two vastly different lifestyles, possibly. I mean, just by the imagery we have a character who's maybe felt like there have been some illusions for them in love. This could be a feminine, could be a strong Leo energy here, but she seems to be a very brave individual. But with that Four of Cups, it says, how come I haven't quite found what I wanted? Or I've been disappointed? Or how come I didn't end up, like just yet finding something that's really authentic? We have a Six of Cups. Okay, so hang on. I do think okay, this might be a very specific message, but I think that there is a soulmate out there for her that is an amazing match, but they could be somebody who comes from her past. Um, let's say she was raised in, since a mountain came out first, let's say she loves, the dark night sky, far away from a lot of city lights so she can go sky watching, and she loves being out in the mountains. But let's say life has taken her into the big city. She's been living in, very like kind of like modernized, high rise, elevated, cities are beautiful. It's a testament to how creative mankind is, and that we can build beautiful buildings and stuff. This is not knocking city life. But if deep down she's actually somebody where, if you asked her, do you prefer the high rise city life or do you crave the mountain? She may still say, oh, nothing beats starlight. Well, I feel like whoever she's meant to be with is like back home. There's a song by Kings of Leon. And it's something about back home. I can't think of the rest of it. It's not Homeward Bound. Is that Paul Simon? I wish I was Homeward Bound. That's not it. This feels like Queen of Swords. She already knows this. She's been delaying going back. Maybe she feels like she'd be, if I withdraw from my more cosmopolitan life, I would be, stepping down from this life that I built for myself. On the other hand, maybe she's like, no, I have to do this. I have to prove to myself that I made it. Like I made it in the big world. I made it, in the big companies. But then deep down, I've been postponing moving back to where I actually want to be. And I wonder if deep down she knows that that's where her real partnership is. I picture her as someone who wants to be in a place that she's familiar with, a place with a lot of trees, a place with a lot of starlight, a place where it's like neighborhoods where everybody knows each other, and it feels kind of safe, and it feels like the kids can put up their lemonade stands and play together. And I'm wondering if she's right now living in like a jungle. I mean, she's very well dressed, so this seems like a pretty like amazing feminine. She's making her dreams come true, but I think deep down she knows she's most at peace. Even here, she's most at peace with these rock cairns. She's most at peace even intellectually when she's surrounded by nature. I can't help but think, is she somebody who is very connected, like she's a force of nature? She could be someone who has a like a almost like a hidden shaman side to her. She may be very, very good with like animals and nature and trees and all living things, all things that grow. But here she is in like, kind of like a satin ball gown and, high heeled shoes and, her hair is perfect and everything. She can walk in that world too. But I almost think that the truer version of her is like this wild free, because I'm picturing like a wild Mustang, a horse that's just totally unbridled. And I think even though I feel like somebody straightens their hair, and it doesn't mean that that's less or more beautiful, but I'm thinking that she straightens her hair when maybe she has naturally more wild hair. And it's like, no, I'm going to make it look very professional and everything is like, I think she is beautiful anyway, but she puts herself together very, very well, very cosmopolitan. But I think that there's this element to her that is actually an incredibly wild. I think she's very comfortable in nature because I think she is a wild thing. You wouldn't think it for somebody like this, because Queen of Swords is highly intelligent, knows how to hold their tongue, knows how to say exactly what needs to be said, very diplomatic, very good leader. But then I think she's like a wild little horse, that's how she comes across. 5 of Wands, she thinks and thinks and thinks about this. I think the kind of person she wants to match with is kind of somebody wild, somebody who's got like a fighting spirit, somebody who's got, I don't know, I just keep picturing her like wanting somebody who has like natural muscles because they just work hard, doing stuff. Somebody who's like, I think what she's really drawn to and what she pictures her partnership as is somebody that's like really loving. Right now, I'm kind of picturing that movie Overboard, Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. I think he's like a carpenter or something. And she falls very in love with him, but she comes from like this very, 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 wealthy place in her world where, she doesn't do carpentry stuff herself, but it turns out that's like really what she's most comfortable in, like that more authentic lifestyle, more hands-on, more, I don't know how else to describe it. We have a 7 of Swords. It does seem like she's been lying to herself a bit, and she kind of knows this. She knows that her real partnership is somebody who's from the same region that she lives in, or somebody who wants the same lifestyle that she actually deep down craves. And if it is, now this story could be read the reverse. Maybe she lives in this mountainous area and she's like, look, I want to be in the city. They call the city the jungle too. It's just a concrete jungle. It takes a whole different skill set to live in a city, right? She could be saying, I want the city life. I miss that. Here I am out here homesteading. And that's not really what I prefer. I prefer the city life. I'm meant for that. We could read it that way. It just hasn't seemed that way necessarily to me. It seems like she's trying to like get her balance all the time in the life that she's living. Here she is trying to meditate. Here she is. I could picture her even in like a really high rise, office building or something. And she still has like pieces of nature that she brings in, maybe she has a little rock car and it might be out of place with all the other, like, I'm picturing somebody with very modern, like black, furniture and, sleek and all that. But then she brings in these little elements of nature. And I think that's the giveaway that like, oh, that's who you are on the inside. You can beautifully walk through this very affluent, very cosmopolitan life, but who you really are on the inside. And I don't think she's been trying to hide who she is. I think she went out to like make her way in the world because these are other things she needed to do. But she's lying to herself if she thinks that that's the world she wants to stay in. In this story, please remember these are fictional. This is just this particular character, a snapshot of this particular feminine in this story. And as always, I don't read for genders. So this could be a masculine just as easily as a feminine, but I would still read it the same way. This is somebody who's really very talented, They're not a one-trick pony. Of course they want to go do other things. Of course they want to, experience the big city. They want to, prove that their intellect can take them to the highest levels of whatever field they're in. She could be a microbiologist, she could be a doctor, she could be a lawyer, she could be any of those things and make it in a big city and make a big name for herself. But if deep down the surroundings, the environment, the lifestyle, and even the like place that she feels like that she really loves and where she'd like to make her home and what partner she'd like to make her home with, I think it's where her roots are. That simple. I think she's been kind of lying to herself that that's the real reason she hasn't found somebody. Because I'm thinking deep down, she didn't really want to find somebody if they loved the city life. I think she wants to, deep down, she's always known she wanted to go back to wherever this, she might even still know that there's somebody in a small town that she still thinks about, somebody that she's like, I wasn't ready to marry them, or I know we could have been good together, but I needed to go out into the city. I needed to go pursue my dreams. But honestly, I've always known deep down there's somebody back home for me, or the person that I'll end up with will be somebody who wants to live the same style of life that I actually really do want to live myself, which is very much like where my roots are. I really see her knowing that maybe she even, I'm not saying that she intentionally sabotaged relationships, but maybe a little bit. Maybe deep down she didn't want to meet the right person for her until she got back to the place that she wanted to be. Or maybe she deep down knew she just simply wouldn't. There's something here where it's like, I think that the universe is conspiring right now for her to have everything come into alignment. Here she is again, kind of in the countryside. I don't know if her job is suddenly going to change. She's suddenly going to have to make some alterations, if she's going to suddenly wind up going back to her roots. But it says that's where her partner is, and deep down she's known it all this time. This is very interesting. I know, again, it's a highly specific message for one particular woman. She could be a blonde, doesn't have to be. This love of her life could be a king of wands, does not have to be. But the reason I say the universe is conspiring is because we have literally, like, the Milky Way is spiraling just right for her. We have this, like, she couldn't have planned this any better. He could have dark hair, does not have to, may have a nice 5 o'clock shadow. He could be somebody that's like a gymnast. He could have some body art. I don't know. I feel like he like is very intelligent, very warm, very loving, but also like somebody who does something very physical. He may have a tattoo on his shoulder, but all of this says, it just seems like he's very connected, like to his body, connected to his heart. He just seems warm. He just seems like a really warm person, a really physical, being connected and loving ourselves and being somebody that is like comfortable in our own skin. That's another act of like self-love, to like love ourselves enough to say, I love the skin that I'm in. If he does like staying fit, or if his job is really active, he may like that part of it. But I also feel like he's super intelligent. But I also think that that's another incredible, component of being intelligent. It's like, I want to use my heart. I want to use my physical self. All of these are the components that make my life better, is when I use my head, my heart, my strength, all of these things combined, that gives me the greatest quality of my life. And I just feel like that's exactly the kind of person that she is. That's probably why she was like, I got to go expand my mind. I got to go move into a big city. But also, I still want to be that wild horse that runs, or that, maybe I should have said, that wild tigress that runs across the savannah. She could be a dancer as well. She may have taken some East Indian dancing. I just say that because of this. Or she could be very interested in different forms of like yoga, meditation, mindfulness practices. I could see her like going to explore like different mindfulness retreats, maybe different forms of spirituality. But with the rock Karns here, and then we had a kind of like I would almost say like a touch of Buddhism, a touch of Hinduism. I feel as if she's explored different places, different ideas. She's very smart, and so is he. But both of them are, I would just say that they're very much in love with nature and in love with their lives, and I think they'll be a wonderful partnership. But that seems to be who she's meant to be with, and that just won't happen until she maybe acknowledges what it is she's really looking for. And I think what she's looking for is somebody who loves the mountains just like she does. Plain and simple. All right, I'm going to leave that one there. That was kind of an interestingly very, very specific story for a particular kind of a character, but that is what we got. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. I so appreciate you guys. Take care. Bye.